Okay, it's 7:30, so I'm going to start the meeting. I'm Janet Anderson. I call to order the Town of Lewisboro Planning Board meeting for Tuesday, November 16th, 2021 at 7:30 p.m. The state legislature passed a temporary amendment to the open meeting law that allows municipal boards to meet via video conference until January 15th, 2022. The board considered this and agreed to meet by Zoom. And we are also live streaming to Zoom on the, to YouTube on the Lewisboro TV channel to enable viewing by the public. No one is at our in-person meeting location at 79 Boughton. This meeting is being recorded. Kirsten has confirmed that the YouTube feed is active and working and that the meeting has been duly noticed and legal notice requirements fulfilled. We intend to post a recording and a transcript of this meeting to the town website. And the Zoom video will also be available on the town's YouTube channel. Joining me on this Zoom conference from the town of Lewisboro are members of the planning board, Charlene Indelicato, Jerome Kerner, and Greg Lasorsa. Maureen McGuire recently resigned from this board. I do want to thank Maureen for her contributions and insights while she was a member of this board. We do have a quorum, and thus we can conduct the business of the board and vote on any matters that come before the board. I should add that the planning board does have an opening as a result of Maureen's resignation. Members of the planning board are appointed by the town board. So anyone who is interested in being considered for an appointment to the planning board should send a letter of interest and a resume to the town supervisor. Also on the conference call with us are the planning wetland consultant, Jan Johannesson, and if not on now, I expect Council Judd Siebert to join us shortly. Also on our planning board administrator, Kirsten Conrad, and CAC Chair, John Wolf. We do have a public hearing scheduled for tonight that will start shortly. That's the only time we expect to take public comments. I will describe the process in just a moment. The public has been joined muted and without video until that point. We ask any applicants that are not currently engaging in dialogue to mute their lines. This will help everyone hear over the inevitable background noises. And as we've done in the past, to ease the recording of our votes, I will poll board members individually. So with that, let's get started. The first item on our agenda is a public hearing. This is calendar number 06-02PB. This is Oak Ridge Gardens, also known as Laurel Ridge, 450 Oak Ridge Common, South Salem, New York. This is the request for a final release of a bond submitted in accordance with the Smith Ridge Housing LLC security agreements for the construction of the water and sewer improvements to be conveyed to the Oak Ridge Water and Sewer Districts. Now,
Janet?
Yes.
You should note for all attending that the closed captioning is available. I don't know if you did that. But if folks want it, they can click on the CC at the bottom of the screen and then choose in the pull down, see subtitle or something. It says subtitles, and that'll show the actual transcript as you're speaking on the bottom of the screen.
Okay. So I hope everyone was able to follow that. And if you want to see the transcript, I will say the transcript is not always accurate, but it is helpful directionally, at least. Now, unfortunately, Judd hasn't joined us. And the process for the public hearing.
Excuse me, Janet?
Yeah.
Judd did email, he's having internet issues.
Okay. Okay, so I guess I'll try to introduce this, or maybe Jan, you could step in. So what we have is what's been called a ping pong process, where in order to release a bond, we have to ask the town board to grant us, the planning board, the ability to make a decision and have a public hearing. So that is the reason that we are now having a public hearing on this request. So I guess the first thing I would say is, as part of the public hearing, what the purpose of the public hearing is for the board to hear the concerns and comments of the public. Comments should be addressed to the planning board, not to the applicant. A public hearing is not really meant to be a dialogue. It's for us, the board, to hear what the concerns are. And of course, we'll take public input into consideration as we continue to review the matter before us. Members of the public can always express their views by mail or email to planning@lewisborogov.com. We invited public comments by email before the meeting. We did get a couple of inquiries, but I'm going to ask Kirsten to confirm that we did not really get any comments, more just questions.
That's correct. No written comments, and I just checked my email again. Nothing's come through on this.
Okay.
Janet?
Yes.
I'll just, and Judd really kind of led and prepared the documents for this, but just as a really brief overview, I'll let you know that, or remind the board that as part of its site development plan resolutions and conditions of resolutions associated with the build out of Oak Ridge development and the condominiums, there was a requirement for a performance bond relative to the water and sewer services in the amount of $243,770. And since the adoption of the resolution and the payment or issuance of that bond, there's been 2 releases or partial releases of money from the town to the back to the applicant following the same process. The first was $190,281 on February 17th, 2015. And then November 15th, 2016, a partial release of $26,151. The remaining $27,000 is now what is being considered for the release of the remaining funds in that account. Again, it's for the water and sewer services, and my office has been routinely inspecting the installation of those improvements. They have been installed. They have been accepted by the health department, and my office had consented to the release of the remaining funds.
And I do note that Judd is now on. So thank you. But thank you.
Trouble tonight. Sorry.
No problem. Thank you, Jan, for covering for that. So if anyone is here to speak at the hearing, you can raise your Zoom hand. And if I don't think there's anyone on the phone, but if you're on the phone and want to raise your hand, you can press *9. So I do see Simone. I'm going to ask you to unmute.
Hi, good evening. I'm Simone O'Connor. I'm actually extremely concerned with the continuation of building and taxing the water system at Oak Ridge. The water is still an issue. Nothing's been resolved. I mean, grants have been applied for, but, you know, hopes and pipe dreams. And the building's continuing over there. Shouldn't, just an idea, all buildings stop and have it continue only and if the water situation is cured? I worry very much about all the human beings living there, young and old, 2021. And I think that we all need to be concerned before we just keep moving and building and building. Thank you.
So again, this is now for the release of this hearing is now for the release of the bond, given that the water system has been accepted by the Westchester County Department of Health.
And Janet, these are for already approved and in large part constructed units. It's nothing. There's no proposal for additional units as part of this particular actions for the previously approved project.
Great.
And yeah, there was phase development and there were milestones set for each phase of development in terms of what needed to be done. Insofar as sewer and water improvements were concerned, performance security has been gradually decreased as each set of improvements have been installed and approved. We're now at the installation and approval or completion of phase 3. So as Jan said, there's nothing beyond this that we're acting on. It's simply to acknowledge that what was supposed to have been done at this point has been done.
Okay, Jerome.
If there's no further public comment, I would move that we close the public hearing.
Okay, I will say that I'm not seeing anyone else's hand raised. So do we have a second on that? Greg, I see your mouth moving, but.
We have the hearing as the first thing on the agenda, right? So everyone supposedly knew that it was going to start right off the bat. It's not like there are people who might think it would be later in the
No,
calendar.
it's on the agenda as the first item.
Okay. All right. Well, I see no hands either. I don't know if I have a complete board of everyone on the Zoom call right now, but I assume, Janet, that there are no other people interested in talking.
I see none, and we're giving people a chance to raise hands. So there is no one else.
Okay. And we had no emails indicating that there were people who would plan on talking.
That's correct. Kirsten got a couple of questions when people saw the signs about what was happening, and let them know. And one, I think, forwarded I'll let you talk, Kirsten. Go ahead.
That's true. And I just checked my emails again. I do not see any written comments. One gentleman who had asked about the notice, I do see him on the Zoom, but he's not raised his hand.
Okay. So speak now, forever hold your peace, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll second the motion then, unless somebody's going to come in at the last minute, but I'll second the motion otherwise.
Right. I guess I will informally say that we have been known to sometimes get emails after the official public hearing, and we do read everything we get. Okay,
Right.
Any further discussion or comments on this? Okay, I'm gonna I guess pull the board now. So Charlene, you're muted. She's nodding her head. Aye. Okay. Jerome.
Looks like a yes.
Yes.
Greg.
Yes.
And I also say aye. So the motion to close the public hearing is carried or is approved. So we do have a resolution, and Judd, perhaps which has been received and distributed among people. So perhaps, Judd, you would just briefly overview what the resolution says.
Sure. And I want to underscore the fact that this is a very finite determination that's being made by the board with regard to water and sewer for this development. There was performance security that was posted as a result of an initial approval to ensure that water and sewer improvements would be installed as approved. And the way that approval was fashioned, it would be done in 3 stages, 3 phases. And over the course of development, the board has, upon review, upon public hearing, released a certain amount of the performance security. We're now down to the last component of that performance security, which involves ensuring that the water and sewer improvements as approved for phase 3 have been installed. That request has been made. We do have written confirmation from the County Department of Health. We have confirmation from the State Department of Health that those improvements are to their satisfaction. Town engineer has reviewed this, and the resolution before the board really follows the form of the prior resolutions that have released the performance security in phases. So, with those sign-offs, this will release that performance security. All I can say is with regard to future issues or concerns regarding the sufficiency of or adequacy of water and sewer in this district, those are district concerns and should be voiced to the town board. But otherwise, what is before this board are all the adequate sign-offs, and the resolution acknowledges that, and with authorization from the town board to conduct the public hearing and then make a determination, the resolution provides for the final release of the performance security.
Okay, any questions from the board about the resolution? And if there are none, I would look for a motion to approve the resolution. Jerome.
Motion to approve the resolution as drafted.
Second.
Thank you, Charlene. Okay, I'm going to poll the board. Sorry, any further discussion? Okay, now I'll poll the board. Charlene.
Aye.
Jerome.
Yes.
Greg.
Aye.
And I also say aye, so the motion carries. Okay, thank you. The next item on our agenda is the sketch plan review for Oak Ridge Common, but we did receive a message from Bob Ebert, who is representing that, saying that he had another meeting and might be delayed, and I do not see him on. So with the forbearance of the board, I would skip over this and move to the next topic, if that is all right with everyone. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. The next item on our agenda then is the final subdivision approval. This is for calendar number 03-13PB, calendar number 03-16WP, calendar number 19-21SW. This is Silvermine Preserve, which is near Silvermine Drive and Lockwood Road, South Salem, New York. This is an application for subdivision, wetland activity, and stormwater permits for the construction of a 13-lot subdivision. And I am not sure who is taking the lead on this for the applicant.
Good evening, Jerry Tortorella here from Hockerman, Tortorella and Wexstein, and we have Tim Allen. Eric Moss is also on, and Beth Evans. We've all worked on this project together. Tim can just summarize for you very quickly what the submission is. There really has not been much in the way of changes from the preliminary approval, but he can just reacquaint you with what the original layout was. And, our request is pretty straightforward this evening. So Tim, I'll turn the floor over to you.
Thank you, Jerry. Good evening. Basically, the subdivision as proposed was preliminary, being the 13 lots on 58 acres with a roughly 40-acre open space parcel. The roadway comes in, and Kirsten, do I have the ability to screen share?
Yes, you do.
Go right ahead, just click the green button.
Yep. There you go. Essentially, the Lockwood Road being up in this area here.
You're
And
not
We're
up yet.
not seeing it.
Not
You're not
seeing
up
it.
yet.
Seeing it, yeah.
you're not seeing the movement?
Not seeing the plan.
You're not seeing the plan.
Not seeing the blank screen that usually precedes it if it's slow to load either.
I can see it here. What the heck do I do? You got nothing on your end, no?
No.
Nothing.
0.
Any suggestions, folks?
Does somebody else have the plan that could share it?
I got to open it up.
No.
Hold on a minute. Okay. Yeah, I have it here.
I apologize.
That's Oak Ridge Gardens. Where are you here? Oak Ridge. Hang in there. What sheet did you want, Tim?
Sheet 2.
Site plan?
Describes it. Yeah.
Okay. That the one you want?
Now I can't see what you've got up. Can anybody see that? What Jerome has got on? I can describe the plan real quick.
You don't
Okay,
see it?
I've got it now. Yes, I can see it.
Okay.
Essentially, the main drive comes in off of Lockwood, which is to the right of the plan. Silver Mine comes in, but is not part of the subdivision. You'll recall during preliminary, we had many schemes that showed a through road, many alterations of this plan. And during that process, the applicants also bought the corner lot, which is at the corner of the entry, the new road, and Lockwood. And that was added to the subdivision as lot 13. The whole perimeter of the property will be open space, and we were intending to donate that to the land trust once the plat is filed. All the testing from the health department is done. The health department has signed the plat originally. This new plat that you have before you will need to be re-signed by the health department. We've received comments from Kellard. Essentially, most of them are done already. We just need to clarify a few things with Jan and Joe. We'll certainly do that. And we're here before you for final approval. It's been a long road, and hopefully we're at the very end of it.
Okay.
Just to supplement that, Tim's comment about the perimeter area that's designated open space there actually have been conversations with the Westchester Land Trust. And if you remember way back when this was originally before the board for preliminary approval, the Land Trust did make appearances at the planning board meetings to explain what its vision was for the property. And the Land Trust, remains committed to being involved with this property and taking title to it. So.
Okay, I do have a few questions, and maybe I'll start with the comment that you had about Westchester Land Trust. When there's a trail shown on the property, and I'm not sure what we've seen in some past things that developments have happened and the trail has never been completed. I would ask you if you have any insights as to who is actually going to construct the trail, when it might be constructed vis-a-vis, is it a homeowner responsibility to pay for that? Is it Westchester Land Trust? Is it the developer? I would like some insight as to the approach to developing that trail.
So I will tell you what our understanding and belief is, but I don't have the authority to speak for the land trust. And if this is something of interest and concern to the board, I certainly do think that we can get the land trust to weigh in and just express to you what their plans are for the site. My understanding has been that the land trust will take title and actually develop the trail system. I mean, there are existing trails on the property. Some will be, some that currently exist are within the areas of the lots to be developed. So those will have to be relocated to really be useful to people, to the general public. So we would envision that our expectation is that the land trust will take responsibility for relocating those. And in fact, I was under the impression that the land trust had already even looked at what a possible layout of trail system would be. Now, the relationship with the land trust, I know we talk about donating the land to the land trust. I mean, it's not done free of charge to the applicant. I mean, the applicant is expected to make a stewardship grant to the land trust in consideration for the land trust accepting title to the property. And, those funds are used for a number of different purposes and, may be available to the land trust to be able to construct and establish those trails. We haven't discussed a specific time frame with the land trust in terms of when those trails would be constructed. I think it would depend in part on the timing of the construction of some of the lots. And there are a number of other factors that are really outside the applicant's control as to when those things could be created. We'd certainly be happy to, see if we can get some more direction directly from the land trust to give you some more crystal and clear-cut answers to those questions.
I think that would be helpful because it is, it is, I think, an important benefit to both the homeowners and to the community to have that. And I do see that on the plans, there was a small sort of loop trail. Having been to a couple of planning conferences recently where they talk about the importance of connectivity between long roads, I would be very interested in an assessment from Westchester Land Trust about whether there's a walking path that could connect over to Silvermine as well. Okay, but I got off on that. We do have a pretty comprehensive memo from Jan, and I would perhaps ask him to start going through that for us.
Sure. Well, because of the kind of the length of time between when this was last reviewed and today, and the fact that we have gone through a couple of building inspectors in the interim, I would recommend that the plans be referred to the building inspector for review, just so he is not seeing them for the first time when the building permit is being requested for a particular lot. That's comment number one. Two is submission of an updated SWIP notice of intent and SWIP acceptance form. I believe that the prior SWIP that was prepared was under a prior Speedy's permit. I don't expect that it's going to change the design of the stormwater features too much, but we do need an updated SWIP. Third comment is just really administrative, changing some verbiage on the signature blocks. For the wetland mitigation plan that was submitted was the older mitigation plan for a different layout. Does not include Lot 13 being developed. We did review the planting cost estimate that was submitted, and we found that to be acceptable. It was right on the money, actually, to the extent that there's minor changes, excuse me, as a result of updating the mitigation plan to reflect the current layout and perhaps the biofiltration system that's going to be at the bottom of Silver Mine Drive. We could revisit that and update that cost estimate accordingly, but we did look at that, and that looked to be in very good shape. There was a legal memorandum prepared by Jerry's office. We really deferred review of that to Judd. I believe the preliminary resolution really called for the drafting of the particular documents, not an overview of what those documents would ultimately contain. The board could require those to be prepared now, or could require them to be prepared as a condition of final subdivision approval. I don't really have really an opinion on that. I wanted to clarify on one of the paragraphs, paragraph 9 on page 3, regarding the water storage tank, underground water storage tank for fire protection purposes. Just wanted to make it clear that the fire department would not be responsible for the maintenance, repair, or replacement of that tank. That they could have the right to do it, but not the requirement to do it. So just Judd could look at that language and ensure that they're not on the hook for the maintenance of that tank. We'll review the cost estimate for the site infrastructure when the final plans are submitted and the final SWIP is submitted. So we deferred that. That's going to likely be the basis for any sort of performance bond and the engineering and inspection fee. There is a new, unfortunately, sometime after, perhaps right before preliminary approval, the surveyor of record passed away, and there's a new surveyor record that had prepared the subdivision plat for the project. Terry Bergendorf Collins is now preparing the subdivision plat. And the plat's very similar to what had previously been prepared. I think some of the notes on that plat now need to be updated a bit. So that's comment number 7, just updating the plat and the engineer's subdivision plan, PP1, just to go over those notes, make sure they're all applicable, and update them as necessary. The DEC wetland validation block appears on the subdivision plat and needs to be updated. The 10-year timeframe has expired, and we require, or the state requires, an updated signature on that validation block, as far as I could tell. And then there's some conditions 5, 6, and 8 of the preliminary approval that need to be resolved or satisfied. And they have to do with comment number 9, condition number 5 is really just taking off some layers on the subdivision plat, or one of the sheets of the subdivision plat, just to make it more legible. Condition 6 had to do with showing us a street sign detail. The private road has been named. There's a proposed name on the plans. We need a detail of the street sign, and I have to look back on the correct procedure, but there is a procedure for getting the name of the road approved by the town, and the person that's kind of in charge of E911 confirming that name doesn't exist anywhere else and is a suitable name for the street. I could look back on prior subdivisions and see what that process is. It might be the receiver of taxes. I forget who's in charge of that, but that's comment number 10. And then comment 11, condition number 8 of the resolution. During the review process, it was determined that there's a lot of stormwater runoff coming off the cul-de-sac of existing Silver Mine Drive and onto the subject property, potentially affecting a wetland that exists at the base of that slope there. And the applicant committed to installing a stormwater management facility, I believe it was a bioretention facility, at the toe of that slope to capture some of the runoff that's coming off the existing cul-de-sac. I believe the applicant had provided a sketch of that facility, and we determined that that would be adequate. But one of the conditions was that it be that facility be fully engineered and made part of the plans, which I didn't see in the last submission. That's comment number 11. And that's it.
Charlene,
I would like to see a term sheet between the Westchester Land Trust and the developer, sort of stating when the trail is going to be kept up, what their vision is, how much is going to be held in escrow or whatever arrangement you have. I'd just be interested because that's a big portion of this. The beauty of this project is the 40 acres. And I would just like to see a term sheet.
okay. I also had a question.
We
Okay.
will certainly talk to the land trust about that and provide that information.
I think that would be helpful. Thank you. I also had a question on the long-term stormwater maintenance and inspection requirements. It said, once everything is stabilized, and there's a bunch of things that are there that are the retention basins and so forth. It says that the only inspection and maintenance is going to be limited to the 2 infiltration systems. And I mean, I've seen stormwater basins and I know they need ongoing maintenance. So I'm a little confused by that. So I guess that would be something that maybe Joe would look at, Jan, or that doesn't seem with all the comments.
Janet, we'll check that on our plans because that doesn't make sense to myself either. It's all the basins will be absolutely maintained, obviously.
Great,
So,
thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, I thought it's the sentence at the very top of, well, it's page 1, but it's page 1 of, I think, a separate document, long-term stormwater maintenance and inspection requirements. Thank you, that would be helpful.
No problem.
I think that goes to, actually, we'll review the final documents that will actually be.
Jan, the reason why we didn't include the SWIP in the submittal was that we didn't revise it. It was basically the same, but we'll certainly resubmit it and put a date on it that reflects the date of the plans.
Okay, I think it was a couple of general permits ago. So there's new NOIs. There's a lot of new things that need to be incorporated into the SWIP. It's outdated.
Okay, we'll look at that.
Okay, so I think the first recommendation in Jan's memo was.
Yeah, and if I can weigh in, my name was invoked by Jan a couple of times, so if you don't mind. And
Go ahead.
I had to find a place in my house where the Wi-Fi is working. If I'm like fading in and out, I'm not like one of those like late night Saturday night horror movie hosts. This is just the way it's working. With regard to the building inspector referral, I think Jan's correct. We don't want to have any surprises down the road for us or for the applicant. I just asked the board to keep in mind and the building inspector on referral to keep in mind that the preliminary plat that was approved is not a plan without consequence. I mean, a lot of time effort and approval and review was, including building department review, was devoted to that plan. So, if it's going to be referred, that Jan and myself, perhaps the town attorney, also be involved in that review, so that we're not disrupting or putting the applicant in a position where significant plan details are disrupted to any extent. The preliminary plat is, again, is something that was the product of significant review by this board and by town departments, but I agree with Jan. Secondly, with regard to the preliminary plat approval and the requirement that we have fully developed documentation in terms of HOA commitments, easements, recorded instruments. I agree. I think it's probably best to hold that off, as we typically do, until a final approval is issued. We then will have the final plat. We will then know and have defined, what everyone's rights and responsibilities are, and it makes it easier, and it's a lot less effort up front that really is unnecessary. That all can be conditioned until final approval.
Okay, Jerome.
Yeah, I wanted to thank Judd for emphasizing the effort that was put in and the fact that this is a preliminary approval. When you look at the plans, they are clearly detailed to the extent of final approval plans. I think I'm the only one that's on the board now that was part of the deliberation and approval that started 10 years ago. So I appreciate Judd's emphasizing that this not be looked at as something that's just materialized, and that Jan and Judd be present perhaps at any review by the building inspector. Thank you.
I don't think he's going to be looking at the construction drawings. I think he's going to be confirming zoning compliance, looking at the driveways.
Right. I meant that. Yeah, I meant that too.
Right.
Part and parcel of the comment is not just the details, but also the concept and.
So are you suggesting that when we send the memo to the building inspector, say that this is being sent to him to acquaint him with a well-developed plan, in recognition that this is that he was not there for the preliminary approval? Something like that?
I would, what I'm recommending is that we excerpt Judd's words. They're on the record now, and incorporate that into a letter.
Okay.
Well, I would just say let's refer as we typically do, and Jan and I can confer with Joe as he works through the process.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, Charlene.
I do understand that there's been a lot of work and it looks like a good plan. However, there has been 10 years, and my thoughts on it is that I would be more comfortable with just a term sheet that Westchester Land Trust is in the same position now as they were 10 years ago. That's all.
Sure.
Yeah, I go ahead, Jerry.
Thanks, Janet. My only point that I would hope can be conveyed to the building inspector is that this was authorized to be treated and approved as a conservation subdivision. And one of the benefits of doing that, and one of the effects of doing that, is that regulations get modified and tweaked. And some relief is given from zoning requirements when you do a conservation subdivision. So, I just want to make sure he understands that this is not supposed to be, or the layout and all of the details are not intended to be exactly in compliance with the zoning regulations for this district, because it is being developed as a conservation subdivision.
Right.
I have to believe that there are files with the with the building department on this, but
I think it's pretty clear on the plat, it's labeled as such.
right.
And I'll sit down with Joe.
Yeah.
Normal, order of business is it gets referred and Joe and I sit down and go over it. So I will give him all the history.
Okay,
Thanks.
so, and I think I was around, but on the CAC when this was done. So I remember that there was a lot of discussion and work on this. All right, so I'm looking for consensus to refer this to the building inspector. I see nodding heads.
Yes.
Okay. Everybody's, yep. Okay, so we have consensus with the advice from council that we send it as sort of normal process. And I think it sounds like it's very normal process for Jan to get involved in the review with the building inspector. So that sounds good. Is there, I know at one point, I mean, just as this might be new to the building inspector, it might be new to the community, but so I wanted to, I don't think much has changed in this at all. I don't really know if there's a reason to do this, but previously we had discussed whether or not this should have a second public hearing or have a public hearing. It is not required for final subdivision, just because it is it has been so long since it's been in front of the neighbors and the community. Again, I'm not sure that the purpose of a public hearing is to educate the public as much as to hear from the public. And what we would be doing here is sort of letting the public know what's going on. So I sort of want to see, would like to get your sense as to whether you feel a public hearing would be necessary and or beneficial in any way on this final review.
We had one 10 years ago.
Indeed.
I don't know that, I think it might have been more
No.
recently than that.
Yeah,
But
it was
yeah.
about
More
4 years,
recently than that, yeah.
about 4 years ago.
Yeah, I think in
I
January,
don't see the problem with it,
you don't see the problem with having one or
having a
not,
public hearing.
so you would favor a public hearing?
Yes.
Okay. Charlene,
I'm not sure I would favor a public presentation maybe, but it has already gone through the process. If we open it up, then we're opening it up again. And I don't believe that at this juncture, we really should. Presentation, I understand because the public hasn't seen anything.
Well, if you have a presentation, it's going to beg itself to questions. And a public hearing incorporates a public presentation. So I don't see the possibility of having people questioning and or making comments at that point, if we're going to have a presentation.
My
Sure.
recollection of the original public hearing is there really was not a lot of public that had much to say. I'm trying to remember it now, but I think there was only maybe 2 or 3 people that had anything to comment on.
Okay.
That's just my
You're right.
recollection.
You're right. The main comments were on headlights on exiting Lockwood and some thought about connecting the road to Silvermine, which we learned was really not a feasible. But I'm not in favor of opening a public hearing. And the only thing that's changed is the date on the plan, which is 10/6/61, 21 rather. And it's the same plan. It's there's some conditions that would be imposed here, as Charlene is suggesting one, a very important one. Janet mentioned one about possible study of connections by footpath. But other than that, I think that the applicant has complied with the good planning practices. And unless Jan, I would defer to Jan if he felt that there was something that
There's certainly no plan changes. It's up to the board whether it wants to hold a public hearing.
I would be against the public hearing.
Charlene, you had your hand up.
I was gonna ask Judd a question. I mean, no public hearing is required. Is that correct?
The board can waive a public hearing provided the final plat as submitted is in substantial agreement or compliance with the preliminary plat, which I'll defer to Jan, but I think that is the case here.
So we would be waiving a public hearing?
You need not require a public hearing for a final plat, provided it is in compliance, right?
I assume that the public hearing that was conducted with the preliminary subdivision also include the wetland permit. I believe it did.
I think it did, Jan. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So I am not really sure how we would make a presentation without a public, or, you know, sort of acquaint the neighborhood without a public hearing. So I'm wondering if there is, I know some applicants in the past have had their own website. I don't know whether we could put, I mean, certainly the whole agenda packet's on our website, but it's sort of difficult for people to find something.
I don't see the point of having a presentation without the opportunity for people who attended to comment. And so
Okay.
therefore it is a public hearing. So either don't have a public hearing or have a public hearing. But the idea of having a presentation, I would agree with Janet. I mean, the information is there if you're not going to have a public hearing. I mean, that's just the type of thing that creates bad will. If there are issues that people want to talk about something that's out there and we put it out there and we don't give them the opportunity to speak. I mean, it may well be that if we do that, they're going to speak anyway. But
Right.
I mean, we've seen that. We've definitely seen people when we've made situations of presentations that have turned into ad hoc public hearing. So, I mean, either we have it or we don't. I happen to think it wouldn't be a bad idea. It doesn't seem to be the consensus opinion on this board, but you know, it's okay.
Jerry.
I know that you're well intentioned in discussing it. The concern I think that we face is that I'm not sure that comments really have any bearing. I mean, we went through this process. What would you do with the comments? You know, I mean, you're just going to let people speak, but at the end of the day, we've got a preliminary approval, and as long as our final approval is consistent with our preliminary approval, we're pretty much entitled to, you know, to final approval based on the preliminary. So it almost, you know, as Greg said, you know, is inviting some havoc and some frustration among members of the public if you offer them an opportunity to comment, but then say, oh, thanks very much, but we can't really do much with your comments.
Yeah, I understand that. And that's one of my hesitations is that I think as both Judd and Jerome have said, an awful lot of work went into creating and fashioning this, and it's hard for me to see that there would be comments that did not cover areas that, or sorry, comments that did cover areas that had not been considered by the board previously. The other thing that I do know, though, is if all of a sudden something starts happening, you know, on a piece of property, and people might have either forgotten or new people might to the
New
area.
people, I mean, yeah, absolutely. I was just thinking that. I mean, it is 4 years.
Might be totally unaware of what's
Yeah.
going on. That's why I think, you know, I don't know if we have a reporter on, you know, somebody. I mean, I just think in some ways, we ought to be able to get out the message that, you know, this is happening, so someone doesn't, you know, I don't want a bunch of calls in that say, you know, what's going on, you know, nothing happened here. I didn't know about anything in this area. So I think that's what I want to sort of avoid. Yes, Jerome.
I think what would be missing, of course, it could be overcome, but would be the alternatives that were gone through initially, which treated the site as a conventional subdivision and left nothing for conservation. And I think that what would be perhaps a better idea would be to have some kind of let the press handle it, or have an article on the value of conservation easements and how this is exemplary and it could serve as a model for other projects, in a way that Hunt Farm is similar. But I think people have a hard time understanding these plans, and what we'll get, and I'm going to say it on the record because I've seen it happen dozens of times. You get the vocal minority that's opposed to a project will come out and have arguments about any development.
Boy, Jerome, you would have been on the other
productive.
side of that coin 50 years ago. It's
That's
funny
not
how the world
productive.
has turned.
That is not
And I would
productive.
have been also probably. But I mean, just when you say that, it just falls harsh on my ears to not give people the opportunity to hear about something and speak about it. I mean, I get what you're saying.
The
You know,
neighbors,
you've
the
done it
neighbors
already,
that,
but
the neighbors that were there, I don't know how many times it's changed hands,
mm,
but they were informed. Everybody within 500 feet of
yeah.
this has had an opportunity.
Yeah, I know,
Even-
4 years ago, but okay. I mean, you know, listen,
Well,
I just believe, it's just something I believe in, you know.
Look, what, if the board were to conduct a public hearing, recognizing the limitations that are imposed by virtue of the grant of preliminary, the consistency of the final plat as presented with the preliminary approval. Look, I'm not saying that we should all go through an empty exercise, you know, for the sake of just having a public hearing. But if we were to do that and allay perhaps some of the concerns that there are folks out there that don't know about this or have not been educated, do we do that? But at the same time, you direct Jan and I to begin drafting
Do that all the time
resolution
anyway.
for final approval.
Yeah.
You know, in contemplation of closing the public hearing and then proceeding to approve the project, provided the board's comfortable with that.
I saw Charlene, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I don't see, again, I don't see the purpose of having a public hearing that's not going to result in anything other than people getting, you know,
information.
well, I don't think a public hearing is an informational. I think it's a public hearing that people will speak their mind on, and if they have any concerns. Because if we have a public hearing, what do we do afterwards when we get comments?
So
Can we
I
change
guess
anything?
I'm going to put this on the applicant, I think. I think you hear that we're hesitant to go forward with a public hearing that would not really be substantive, you know, but we also feel like the community doesn't know enough about the plans. You know, they might be surprised when a bulldozer shows up or when stakes go up or something. And I guess I'd ask if the applicant has any recommendations about how to communicate to the community, whether they would think about a you know, maybe almost a salesy interview with a newspaper, or I'm just asking you to think about that, because I think there's a desire to get information out there.
A solution could be, we could do a mailing to the abutting owners and have them contact our office, and we'd be more than happy to go over the plans with them. Email them the plans, or just let them know what's going on. I don't think that's a compromise there. Or we can go back and look at who was noticed in the last public hearing and check the tax rolls today and see, you know, we're looking at the same list. That's another option.
Okay. So I think Kirsten also has just messaged me that, you know, we could put up the plans on a separate link on the Town of Lewisboro website, and, you know, maybe joined with a letter to the it wouldn't have to be a certified letter, just a letter to the abutting neighbors offering, I think that would be a good thing. I mean, we ask a lot of people to talk to the neighbors and make sure they know what's going on. And so to offer to talk and maybe to reference a set of plans up on the site.
Are these people aware?
I'm
That's what I'm asking you.
I'm open to ideas like that because I understand the that a public hearing where we are offering information but not getting comments is
Well, who said we weren't getting comments at a public hearing?
Oh, I said we would, but what we're
Yeah.
saying is it's probably pretty pro forma in that it would be surprise.
Didn't we just do a public hearing like that tonight? About an hour ago?
Yeah. I mean,
I appreciate everything that everyone's saying. I appreciate what Tim had said, but why should we do more work and do more difficult work when the best thing to do would be to hold a public hearing, and then it's on the people who either partake or don't partake? Because if you put an article in the paper, or if you go and look at the rolls, or all these other things that seem to be a more difficult task than just holding a public hearing, there's no guarantee that any of these things are going to be satisfactory. And then people will say, why didn't you have a public hearing? If in fact it comes up, the likelihood is, and I think I recall the public hearing several years ago, it was not a greatly attended. I don't remember it being one of our more lively public hearings, but I think there were people there. The likelihood is we're going to have a few people come in here, make a few comments. You'll probably get compliments along the lines of some of the things that, like, some of the board members have been talking about tonight, about how nice this plan is. And then at least we'll be able to go forward with that. I mean, all these other things that you're suggesting are interesting, but I think they evade the point of what we're trying to do, which is, do it by the book and let the people have an opportunity to talk.
Good evening, members. Eric Moss. I will mention there is a substantial site plan posted on the property, very easily to see. So I do know that anybody in the neighborhood is aware that there's a plan in place and they can see it. It's very, very large and very plain to see the lots. It's not very complicated to understand.
And if you walk through the property.
And the property is very easy to walk through. It's been traveled by most of the neighbors, so I really don't see this being necessary.
Is there contact information on that sign?
Yes.
Yes, there is.
Can't we say that about every project we have?
Well, I think it's helpful to get that, to know, Eric, that sign is out there and that it's visible and available for people to see.
Yeah, it's a full map, and there's even lot signs posted in throughout the property where the lots are. They're posted, all 13 of them.
Great, thank you. Okay, so with that, I guess we've got to go ahead, Jerome.
Just one, Greg, you said do it by the book, and in fact, the book says we have the right to waive a hearing.
To waive a hearing, exactly.
Yeah, so we'd be doing it by the
meaning
book.
that the hearing is supposed to go forward unless we waive it.
So I would look, let's, do we have to make a motion on whether to waive?
I would make a motion.
I move that we waive the public hearing per the discussions that we've had so far.
Do we have a second?
I second it.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, I'm going to poll the board. Charlene?
Aye.
Jerome?
Aye.
Greg?
No.
And I am also going to say, based on and it was helpful to hear from Eric that there is a sign there, contact information is available. I will also say that I vote in favor of waiving the the public hearing, so the motion carries. Okay,
Yeah, just to reiterate, it's more than a sign. It's an actual plan. It's the full plan laid out on a very large board.
great. I should probably drive past and see it because it's been a while since I've been anywhere near that site. So thank you. So with that, I mean, I believe there's a number of things that have to get done, and we should, so we did refer it to the building inspector. We did get, we did ask for some, a little bit more on the Westchester Land Trust. And I think, is there anything else that we need to do at this meeting? Okay. I know we did talk about potentially starting to do, to work on a resolution. Is that something we should ask at this point, or do we want to wait for some of these other items in the memo to come in?
I have no problem starting the resolution, but we do need the resubmission of the items in the memo.
Okay.
And we need the building inspector's sign off.
Okay.
We could start putting it together, but technical review of the final SWIP hasn't been conducted. We need to see the final mitigation plan. We need the letter from the land trust. So maybe those things can happen simultaneously. That would be fine, but I'd like to see them before it's voted on.
Okay.
Can I just ask for some clarification? So in terms of the feedback, you want some sort of a written confirmation or reconfirmation from the land trust about its willingness to take the property and understand what its vision is for the property and its commitment to the property. And we'll work with them to develop that as well, because we've always worked under and been operating under the assumption that this is real land that's being dedicated, not just leftover land, which you see in some subdivisions. So in our mind, it's always really been kind of meeting the requirement for the set aside of land for passive recreational use, although the trail system isn't necessarily going to be so passive because there's got some rolling topography with it. But we really have always worked under the operation that it would meet that requirement. So we will work pulling that information together with the land trust. If there's any other information that will be helpful to you on that point that you think of now, if you just want to mention it to us so that we can make a comprehensive submission to you.
As I said before, I think as part of their vision, it would be helpful to see if they have any view of when the timing of the completion of the trail might be. And in particular, I would again look for footpath connectivity over to Silver Mine if they agree that is a feasible trail to build. I don't want them to have to build a bridge.
Janet, Jerry brings up a good point, and I'm not sure it's something that the board is ready to discuss tonight, but Jerry's alluding to the fact that the conservation or the open space parcel is going to be the recreation for the subdivision, and that's going to satisfy the requirement. I have to look back on the neg deck and the preliminary resolution to see if there was any discussion of that in those documents, but the rec fee is $10,000 per lot. We have a 13 lot subdivision, it's $130,000. So at some point the board, and I'm not saying you have to do it tonight, but since Jerry raised it, the board will have to determine whether the land that's being conveyed to the Westchester Land Trust is going to satisfy the recreational requirements of the subdivision.
Do we have any obligation as a board to ask for input from any of the, I don't know, Parks and Rec or Town Board or anything on the value or that they see of the proposed recreational amenity?
I think maybe we should take a look at at the prior documents, the preliminary resolution, the neg deck. Let us take a look at the law and the zoning ordinance and see how it's to be applied. And then maybe we can come back the next meeting and discuss that further.
I also think that, further elaboration from the land trust in terms of the trail system and the connectivity and the public access to that trail system will be informative to the board in terms of that determination.
Yes, and how much is put aside for maintenance, et cetera.
Yeah, and we will address that. I mean, I recall it. I recognize it's a number of years ago, but the Open Space Committee was very involved and enthusiastic about the possibility of setting this land aside and working it into some sort of a trail system. So let us put that together. Let us address it in the context of referring back to the agreement, not the agreement, but the resolution of approval, the neg deck, because they do touch on those things, and as well as the criteria for recreation land and park land under the subdivision regulations, because it's spelled out as to what the parameters are and the expectations of what that land would be. All right, good.
Great.
Yes, thank you.
Great.
Okay, anything else on this matter?
Nothing from us. So we wish you a happy Thanksgiving, and we'll be in touch when we have pulled that information together.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. And
Thank you.
happy Thanksgiving to you too.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Take care.
Okay. So I see Bob Ebert, I believe Bob Ebert has joined us. He's, as everybody goes off, all the names move around, but it's still there. So perhaps we'll go back to the item we skipped over before, which was the sketch plan review, calendar number 08-21 PB. This is for Oak Ridge Common, 920 Oak Ridge Common, South Salem, New York. And this is an application for a change of use from a restaurant to residential. So, Bob, hello.
Hello, thanks for postponing your hearing on this till I got back from the other meeting.
Sure. So I think a few things have come in. We did get a memo from Westchester County Planning, which I believe you should have a copy of, which asked about consideration of an affordable unit, even though it's a 4-unit rather than statutorily required in a 5-unit. I guess that's one thing I wanted to bring up. Do you have anything you want to show us or at this point? Or should I move?
No, I think there's a couple of points we want to make, but you may want to review Jan's memo before we do that.
Okay, that's where I was going to go next. So Jan, do you want to hit the highlights of your memo for us?
Sure. So the projects before the board for site development plan approval, it does qualify for the waiver of subdivision or waiver of site development plan procedures, given the fact that it's a change of use from restaurant to residential without the need for any variances. So that really just shortens the review process and the applications that need to be submitted. Typically, it's a 2-step process. This brings it down to a 1-step process, and the board could potentially waive the public hearing. The application has been referred to the Westchester County Planning Board, and you've received some comment back from them. We had previously recommended that the application be referred to the building inspector for review. I believe that has not taken place yet, if I recall correctly from the last meeting, that we postponed that till this evening. If it had been referred, I don't believe that we've seen anything back from the building inspector, but I thought we were holding off on that. The applicant did provide, as requested, a comparison of water usage between the previously approved 250-seat restaurant and the 4 3-bedroom apartments in terms of water demand using the New York State DEC design standards for intermediate sized wastewater treatment systems. And the analysis that the applicant provided, we confirmed as being accurate based on those standards. And basically, the 250-seat restaurant was estimated to result in 8,750 gallons per day versus the proposed 4 3-bedroom apartments, 1,320 gallons per day. Those are based on the New York State DEC standards. The applicant is proposing to offset its recreational requirement by providing memberships to the Lakeside Fitness Facility to comply with the recreational requirements per the zoning code regarding multifamily developments. And we defer to the building inspector and the planning board as to whether that proposal meets the requirements of the code. I don't know a lot about that particular fitness facility. I've never been there. I don't know what it costs to get a membership there. For reference, the fee in lieu of for a multifamily unit is $7,500 per unit. We had previously requested that the applicant submit architectural floor plans of the proposed change of use, understanding that they may change as the applicant further designs them and the market changes, but just a general idea. If all 4 units were going to be 3 bedrooms, what the layout would consist of, knowing that that there may be some tweaks between now and when you apply for building permits, just to understand the general idea. During the October 19th meeting, the board had requested certain information, which we enumerated in comment number 5A through 5E. The planning board asked that the applicant obtain a letter from the town board consenting to the change of use and the modifications to the water and sewer flow. That's comment 5A. 5B, the planning board requested and the applicant committed to providing electric vehicle charging stations, and we asked that they be illustrated on the plan. Not quite sure whether the board intended that to be for this this change of use, or whether it was in the context of when the applicant was describing that there may be some future expansion of the first floor or change of use of the first floor to residential use, and maybe that was when the board was looking for those particular charging stations, but I defer to the board on that. The board asked that the applicant contact the health department and identify whether any approvals are required of the health department for the change of use. So we just asked that the applicant provide something in writing from the health department as to whether approvals are required. The board asked for actual water meter readings of a 3-bedroom unit within the existing condominium development. That's comment 5D, and we can compare those to the DEC standards that are identified in our comment number 2. There was some discussion by the board, and the board, I think, just wanted to put it in on the record that should the applicant wish to further convert non-residential space to residential space, that the board would be looking at this instant application and any future application collectively when determining the required amount of affordable housing. And that was the memo. So the items 5A through E are items that the board had requested that I don't believe have been provided to date.
Good evening. Michael Sarignano. I'm here and with Phil Pine and Bob Eberts, the project architect. I think Jan has laid it out very succinctly so we can save time here. It is a type 2 action exempt under seeker. We're not proposing any changes to the parking lot or the traffic flows. The building exterior will remain, the footprint certainly will remain exactly the way it is. Some windows will get swapped out because of fire code requirements of having larger escape windows in the bedroom areas. So given that we're making no real changes to the exterior of the building, certainly not the footprint or the parking, we certainly are asking for a waiver of site development plan approval. In terms of the referral to the building department for zoning compliance, we ask you to do that, have your planning administrator send over the application to the building inspector for his review. We agree with Jan that the conversion or the comparison of restaurant cabaret use with 250 seats approved to 4 3-bedroom apartments will significantly reduce water usage and produce significantly less sanitary flow. So I think that's a good thing for those concerned with the capacities of the water and sewer systems. Yes, we are asking to have acknowledged that the free memberships we're offering. We can provide information about what the memberships cost and work those numbers for you. I'm happy to do that. In terms of the architectural plans, Bob Eberts can certainly draw up 4 3-bedroom apartments and we can submit that to you, but Phil really needs some flexibility because we're going to let the market dictate. It may be that we go out, we build out 4 3-bedrooms, or maybe we have some 3 bedrooms and some 2 bedrooms. So we'd ask you to draft your resolution in a way that would set caps as opposed to exactly defining how many bedrooms each unit will have. So we'd ask that you say no more than 4 units, or you're approving up to 4 units and no more than 12 bedrooms total. And let Phil and the market figure that out and submit drawings to the building department. I don't know how interested you are as planning board members in the interior layouts of apartments. If you are, we're happy to share them when they're ready. But again, we're going to ask for flexibility in the way you draft your resolution, hopefully waiving site plan approval.
Michael, I don't want to interrupt, or
Yes.
I'm going to interrupt, but just I think the idea is just to understand access and like if there's going to be a center hall to, how that's going to lay out,
Okay.
not getting into the weeds on how the unit's laid out, but just a general idea of how it's going to work, how you're going to enter the building. And that's it. I don't think there's any, we're not trying to tie you to that particular plan. And we understand that the 3 bedrooms would be the maximum and you'd have the ability to reduce if needed.
Okay, that's fair enough. I think Jerome wants to speak.
He does. I agree that our concern here is the total number of bedrooms because there's assumptions being made about water usage. And so if we landed on 12 bedrooms and dealt with the access, center hall, whatever it's going to be, I think that would be my interest. But here I'm going to take Greg's position on this as well. I think, Greg, where are you? That because of the issues around this entire property, I think there should be a public hearing to clear the air and to show that we're asking for due diligence and in terms of water usage and the issues of water quality is going to come up again, and we'll find. But I think it's important that for that community to know that we are concerned about these issues as well, and we want to hear what they have to say. That's my,
My answer to that is, I don't think we have a problem with a public hearing. I'll seize on Judd's suggestion on the earlier matter that perhaps a resolution could be prepared so we don't lose a month. And that if you're based on the public comments or no public comments, the board is comfortable to act on a resolution. It'll be ready in front of you.
Yeah, I think we should have at least in the back of our mind on this one that this may not be one of those situations where we can do the resolution right after the public hearing. I think we will get feedback here.
And I think,
That's your business. I'll leave that up to the board.
yeah, I also think, you know, I would like to see, I want to go back to the comment about the floor layout. I just feel like approving a 4-bedroom unit when we don't, I'm sorry, a 4 3-bedroom units when we don't really know if it'll fit, how the access is going to be, anything. I know it's not going to, it doesn't have to be the final one, things can change. I just feel like I'm approving, you know, I don't know, at the end, we're a planning board and there are no plans. I feel like I need something. So, and again, I understand how the eventual resolution may be a max rather than a min, but it would be really helpful just, you know, are people going to go can you walk from one end of the building to the other? What's the thought? It's kind of the concept and help me with a little bit with that.
Bob, do you want to jump in and just give the board the concept of how you would lay out 4 apartments, however many bedrooms they may contain?
Yeah, we do not see a center hall at all. We see all exterior entrances right off the parking lot that's there, the sidewalks that are there. So really, we're just changing the exterior windows to allow egress windows in the bedrooms that are around the perimeters. So the kitchens will be interior, the bedrooms will be exterior, the bedrooms and living rooms will be exterior. It's a pretty simple layout, I think. It's just that we don't know which bedrooms go with which units. So we don't know whether there's going to be 3-bedroom units, maybe even a 1-bedroom unit might happen. And until we do our marketing, you know, it's tough to say that. So how many entrances will there be? We really don't know yet.
well, but Bob,
You're asking-
your plan shows 4 doors. So that substantiates what you're saying. There are 2 on the north elevation and 2 on the south elevation.
That's correct.
So these are like maisonettes, if you will, where you can walk in right off the street with no. So I mean, you've gone to a lot of detail on the elevation. It seems to me it wouldn't take much to just to block out the 4 units and satisfy what Jan is talking about to clarify that's feasible. It's not a big deal.
We'd be happy to do it.
Thank you so much. And then I think because one of the items is to refer this to the building inspector, and I am sure that the building inspector is going to want to see the layout as well. So, and recognizing that it might not be final, but I think it would be helpful to have at least a working idea, a vision to base this on.
All right, if I could quickly tick through the paragraph 5 of Jan's memo where he lists A through E and just finish up on that part of the presentation. Phil has provided the town board, the supervisor, the deputy supervisor with a lot of information about water and sewer. And
excuse me a second.
Yes, it's on the agenda on November 22nd. For the town board. So before the public hearing is opened, we're certainly going to have feedback from the town board on that. I'm going to skip over 5B for a moment and come back to it. 5C, yes, we are going to get you something from the health department, which will tell you and us whether any approvals are required once Bob develops his plan. 5D, we've requested actual meter readings for a 3-bedroom unit within the existing condominium development. We don't have it yet. We should have that information certainly before the public hearing. We'll provide it. Jan's memo notes, and I think this came from the chair at the last meeting, a request about what the actual restaurant meter readings were. We just don't see that that's relevant at all. As Jan points out, the DEC standards show that we're significantly going to be less water usage and sewer. And so what the restaurant did, whether it was a healthy restaurant or not so healthy restaurant, I don't think that's particularly relevant. And so we would ask the board to waive on that. 5E, yes, if this works, if these rental units are in demand and they rent, Phil is certainly going to come back to you with a new plan from Bob to convert other commercial space into residential space. And when and if we do that, we will certainly, and we'll agree now, but we will then certainly reconfigure the parking lot to eliminate unnecessary and non-required parking, and then make improvements to the landscaping and lighting. Also, and now I'm going back to 5B, which I skipped over. In terms of the minimum of 3 electric vehicle charging stations, Phil will do that as part of any future proposal, not with these original 4. But we will commit today to doing that as part of any future conversion of additional units beyond the 4. And we will agree today to calculate these 4 and add them to any additional units in the future for purposes of affordable housing unit calculations and requirements. So that's our quick overview of Jan's comments. Phil, what did I miss?
Just quickly, since we spoke earlier, the town did send over the usage for the Boulder Ridge units. We did get it. We were unable to determine which were 3 bedrooms and which were 2 bedrooms. So just in putting together a calculation, the numbers, I said everything was a 2-bedroom, which obviously will make the numbers higher. And the numbers are coming in at less than half of the 110 gallons per bedroom that the health department uses. So you're going to be, I don't think we're going to have 12 bedrooms in there, but let's assume we do. You're going to be in a 600 gallon range, not the 1300 gallon range. We are on the agenda with the town on the usage, on the capacity, which when we left the meeting last time, was my understanding that you wanted me to go back to the town and get the town to agree that there was capacity or not, which is what we're doing. And at that point, I thought that was the issue at hand, and we should have that. Hopefully we'll have that one way or the other at the November 22nd meeting with the town board. They have the numbers. The plant is using 33 to 37, billing, excuse me, 33 to 37,000 gallons per day. The usage is significantly higher because of backwashing, and there's, I mean, needs to be looked at, but it's in the 57,000 gallon range is what the wells are providing each day. So there is, I mean, we're looking at 600 gallons compared to the total is 80,000 gallons for the plant, and you're at 57,000 gallons per day. I mean, the usage is there, and that's what the town board is going to hopefully say on next week. So, you know, I was hoping that would be enough to satisfy you. This is a change of use on a building that exists without, you know, and I'm obviously trying to do business here. I can't market this without knowing that we're going to be able to get this. I mean, do something from my point of view needs to be done with that building.
Yeah, I think the, you know, the town board, I still see as the ultimate sort of manager authority over the water system. And so I think part of it is to make sure they're aware and that they agree that this is a reasonable thing to do. So it sounds like you're on the path to do that.
So if we do get that from them on the 22nd, will the board, is that enough for the board? Which is what I thought it was when, from the last meeting.
I think that's our intent, is to get their agreement that this is an appropriate change of use, and that they understand the water requirements, which you've laid out for us.
And for them, I mean, we gave them this, all of that information.
Yep.
I'd also note that the county planning board referral letter response of October 25th does contain the following comment, just in case any interested people are listening. That the comment from the county was affirmatively furthering fair housing. That was their primary comment on our proposal to convert to 4 additional units.
So I think one of the things we sort of skipped over. Oh, I'm sorry, Jan, did you want to say something?
Just that I think that the more crucial numbers are the actual water usage for the residential units, and not, what the restaurant did during its peak, several years ago. If we know the actual water usage of 3-bedroom units in that particular development, I don't know what other, what the restaurant numbers really do for you,
That's what the town board is asking for. And we just got that again at 4:30 this afternoon. We'll have that over to them. It came from the town, from the billings of the town over the last 2 years.
Okay.
All right. I think one of the items that we should probably address is the use of the fitness center as a recreational and amenity that would offset the fee to the town. I tried to go out and look up Lakeside Fitness. I didn't see any reference to it in website, Facebook, no sense of fees. One of the things I worry about is what happens if that goes out of business and is that really what the intent of the recreational fee is? I think the intent of the recreational fee is to provide an amenity to the community, not necessarily just to the people who happen to live in that particular apartment. So I do have some concerns about that. I don't know. I mean, I think one of the things we might want to do is ask the building inspector whether that's a acceptable interpretation of the code, and see that. So, I have 2 hands up. Okay, Charlene, you're muted. You're still muted, Charlene.
I agree with you. I don't think that a recreation fee was meant to benefit private individuals. It's meant to benefit the community at large. So I don't see that as a possibility in my mind.
Jerome, you had your hand up as well.
Yeah, I also agree, and I think especially if they're 3-bedroom units, it would imply that there would be a range of ages, children, maybe old folks, and the sandwich generation, and that there are existing recreational facilities on the property, and the question is how are they being utilized? Are they underutilized? And I think the applicant needs to substantiate that perhaps they could add to those existing facilities if they're within a reasonable distance, as opposed to recreating it, but maybe a small sitting area, playground for children, or some way to create diversity and not just deal with middle-aged people who want to go work out on the treadmill.
So when you say recreation facility on the shopping center property, or?
Well, you have, on the overall property in the Oak Ridge condo, would they be willing to share those facilities for additional units? Or would they say to you, no, they're not adequate, you need to have more square footage? So I think there has to be, in my mind, it's one large complex, multi-use complex.
We did that with the townhomes. We actually made a deal with them and we're paying our proportionate share to be able to use the facilities over there. It's difficult because it's a condominium that the vote to do it is a difficult one. We would certainly be happy to do the same thing we did before, and I'll reach out to the management company. But if you're not happy with the fitness center, I wouldn't object to going back and just paying the recreation fee. If there are other alternatives, that's fine. But this is not going to be a stumbling block here. Again, at the last meeting, we talked water, we were talking capacity. I think that's going to be resolved in a week. Hopefully it's going to be resolved in a week because the numbers are so low compared to, the plant, the capacity of the plant. So the recreation facility, will try to go back to the condos and see if we can do something over there. And if not, if you're not happy with the fitness center, we can certainly just pay the fee and go forward. But, I'd like to the process itself, I'd like to just see if there's any way we can get this. I mean, it's a change of use from restaurant to residential. It's not like we're building anything new. So the process, it's very difficult not being able to do anything with that space.
Yeah. Charlene, go ahead.
Mr. Pine, I understand that you don't want to put in 3 EV chargers. And you're promising that if in fact you do anything with other units, you may not, maybe in a few years, would it be possible to do 1 charger?
It's just figuring out how to get the electric to the chargers, where we're going to put them. It becomes a site. You're doing site work to get to them. So again, I like the idea of the chargers. It's just, we're not really doing very much site work right now to do that. So it is something, we have another 16,000 square feet in this building that needs to be utilized, for something. This is a stepping stone to see, how this works. I think it is the right use for that area. And again, I'd be happy to do that, all 3 of them, when we're doing something more substantial within the shopping center. And we're happy to put that in writing.
Okay, so I'm going to try to, so first of all, I do notice a member of the public has their hand up. This is not a public hearing. It sounds like we may be on our way to making a public hearing, at which point comments will be welcome. And of course, you can always email at planning@lewisborogov.com. Thank you. So I think what I'm hearing is, first of all, we want to refer this to the building inspector. I don't know if we want to wait till we have apartment interior plans, or whether we can do that, now, but I think I'd look for consensus to refer it, and perhaps the interior plans can be forwarded subsequently. So thumbs up or yes or something if you all agree to send it. Okay.
So just clarification, Janet.
Yes.
I think to stress that the interior plans for egress, access, and so forth are building department issues, building code and building department. And so we'd like them to be included in any submission that goes to the building inspector for it to be a meaningful review. We could see it later. But.
Yeah, I think.
As I understand it, you're looking for a zoning review, though. Building permit is being issued much later, and that's when all that will be addressed in detail.
Well, In fact, though, I think the point that's being made here, I don't know, maybe it's indirectly, but when you look at the square footage of this restaurant, when I see division walls here, I see a lot of blank walls without exterior exposure. And when you put 3 bedrooms in it, we know that there's a ratio of light and air and also egress that have to be provided for each bedroom. And it looks to me like it's going to be a stretch. I don't know if you've penciled anything out, but I think we might be talking about fewer units with using the perimeter, and I don't know what you put in the middle, but I think let's get real here and look at the plan. That's all we're saying. We want to send something to the building department that works, and not have him tell us, hey, what are you guys thinking about here? This isn't going to work. So let's get real.
Well, I think asking for the 4 3-bedrooms, I don't think we're really going to end up with 4 3-bedrooms. It was just giving us the flexibility. So I think, like we said, if you end up with two bedrooms or 1 bedroom, I think you'll end up with 10 bedrooms, and we'll be able to make that work within that existing space.
Phil, we can't have a resolution that approves 12 if we're not.
Okay, I understand.
You guys
What's the resistance here? What's the resistance to drawing up the plan? I think you're put a lot of ink on paper on for elevations, assuming that we're not going to be looking at practicality. We don't approve the interior floor plan, but we'd like to see how this would break up and before it goes to the building inspector.
Yeah. All right, why don't you refer everything? Initially, he's got to make an analysis of the zoning, whether the use is permitted, whether the density is permitted, whether the setbacks change or things like that. So he can certainly start on that while Bob comes up with a preliminary layout.
Okay. And I think we did. We did just agree to send it, refer this to the building inspector. Did we want to, and you know, we'll look for the plans to go along. And I think the point, we don't want to approve a blank check or something that we have no idea what it's really going to look like. I think it's up to, we've sort of beat that into the ground. Okay, the next thing is we have talked about a public hearing. Is this, do you think I look to Jan saying, do you think this is ready to go to a public hearing, or that we can schedule one for this?
I would think a public hearing could be scheduled, provided the applicant provides responses to the comments between now and the hearing.
And we feel we can tick off almost all of these, if not all of them, address all of Jan's comments rather quickly, short turnaround.
Yeah, and on the, the electrical charging and I do understand that if you don't want to tear up asphalt and relay stuff, if you're going to end up redoing and looking at a different kind of landscaping. But I think that the market is moving towards expecting electric amenities, and that there are enough grant and other opportunities out there that I do encourage you to stay aware of that, and maybe the time is better sooner than later. Okay, so should we, public hearing in December, is that what we're saying? And does the board agree?
Do we even have enough time for that?
Kirsten,
30 days, 30-day notification.
Over a month away.
Yeah, we should. Yeah, 21st, we should, yeah.
Yeah, more than a month. I think we should be all right. Okay, anything else on this? I think I got all of the items we have talked about.
So we are gonna proceed on the 21st with a public hearing?
If we believe that the applicant can get the information to us, which I think I heard them say, and we can get notice out.
What is the official paper now, and when do they come out?
The official paper is the record review.
And do they come out on Thursday?
Friday.
Fridays.
Friday. So have we got time to get it in on this Friday? Otherwise it'll be the 26th.
I don't think we're gonna really get this done. I mean, maybe Michael has a better idea about what he can get done, but I mean,
I'm
you've got a
agreeing.
holiday in the middle of it, and
I agree.
The mailings go out 15 days before the public hearing. The sign needs to be posted 7 days before the public hearing. And the publication is 5 days before the public hearing.
Just 5 days.
Mhm.
Oh, that's not a problem.
Yeah, we can do it.
Thank you, Kirsten. Helps us assess the doability. Okay,
Yeah,
so we'll
that's fine.
plan for December
21st.
December 21st. Yes. Okay. Anything else on this?
No,
Okay. Thank you.
thanks for your
Thank you.
time.
Good
Thank
night.
you.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy
Happy
Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving.
Okay. The next item on our agenda is a wetland permit review, calendar number 30-20 WP, calendar number 05-20 SW, the Stein Residence, 51 Pine Hill Drive, South Salem, New York. This is the application for the construction of a single family home. And I did see.
Yes, I am
There,
here.
Brian, you've moved
Yes.
it, the people go off and all the squares move. All right, so
Uh-huh.
Brian is on.
Yes. So
Yes.
for the record, Brian Hildenbrand, the engineer for the project. Since at our last meeting, the board discussed the site walk. Since the site walk, we submitted revised site plans. One to include the board's comments from the site walk, and also to address the Kellard Sessions memo. So what we did, I'll just share my screen. So I'll just run the board quickly, just about the changes that were made. Can everyone see my screen?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, if I can zoom in. What's happening? Not zooming. Okay. So the major changes that we did were we shifted the house. Again, here's our lot. There's an existing common driveway. There's two other houses. This is the third and final house on this common drive. We have our septic in the front yard. We have a NYSEG easement in the rear. And our wetland is located to the north, page left. There's a local wetland and also a DEP watercourse, which is their 100-foot buffer is this red line. So what we did is we shifted the house as far away from the wetland as we could, and still meeting zoning setbacks and fitting our septic components in. We changed the driveway to gravel because the driveway is closer to the wetland and entirely in the buffer. We made modifications to the stormwater system. Previously, we had a rain garden. We changed to an underground infiltration system. This limits it reduced the amount of disturbance required. So that helped just overall reduce our impacts to the buffer. We also prepared a wetland mitigation plan to offset and meet our 1-to-1 requirement. We do have some work to do on this plan based on Jan's comments, but we have no issues addressing those comments.
Okay. I believe, Jan, you have a memo on this?
Yes. Yeah, we thought the modifications to the plan were very good, moving the house over to the extent possible, shifting the house, shifting the driveway, all resulted in less impacts to the wetland buffer. So I think the location of the improvements certainly are better than they were, and we support the kind of the conceptual layout there. The wetland mitigation area we felt needed to be more densely planted than shown, and there's a wetland on, looking at the plan, upper right hand corner off site. It's a DEC wetland. I don't suspect that it's going to come into play, but we would like to see it mapped, the approximate location based on the DEC wetland maps and the buffer associated with that, just to document it. And then the properties in the DEC check zone. So we'll need confirmation from the DEC that the project doesn't require a DEC wetland permit. We had some minor comments on the stormwater, but it's definitely heading in the right direction. And it just came down to making some improvements to the wetland mitigation area and fine tuning the stormwater and locating that offsite wetland and confirming that no wetland permits are required with the DEC. But definitely an improvement from the first go round.
And just to jump in, I did meet with DEP last week with Andrea and Miriam. We walked the site and walked the water course. They had no issue with what we show as far as the water course. They just want to see what happens a little, extend the view a little bit with some GIS topo. So once I get them that figure, they're going to issue their no jurisdiction letter. So that it's in progress. And we reached out to DEC just to get their verification, and we'll be sure to show that wetland moving forward, that DEC offsite wetland.
Great.
Yeah, I agree that that this is a very responsive plan to the concerns that were reported back after our site walk. So I appreciate that. I'm looking, I believe the CAC had a memo on this. John, do you have any comments on this?
Our memo was pretty positive. We kind of said basically what Jan said. It was a significant improvement over the previous plan. And I think the only other comment was about some of the trees being removed.
Right. And I think the addition, if some more plants go in as part of the mitigation, perhaps a couple of trees could be added as part of that. Okay, yes, Jerome.
Yeah, perhaps you could clarify, there's a note says existing NYSEG easement, and it shows a single line there, and usually easements have a width to them, not just a single line. What's going on there?
There are overhead power lines that traverse the property. Actually, we're looking, what I call out is the closest easement line. There's two. I just can't zoom in at the moment for whatever reason to show you, but there are two.
That's not the center line of the overhead line, though, right?
No, the poles, these dark tick marks here, are actually the power lines poles, and so they're within the easement, which is this dashed line.
Okay. Just it wasn't clear on the plan what the extent was to the north, I guess that is. Okay.
Yeah, east. Okay, so, Brian, have you had any communication with the neighbor on this?
No, not since our, I don't believe the owner has made any contact. I have not.
Okay. Because I think one of the things we'd like to do, I mean, this seems like it would be a candidate potentially for administrative, but I think we'd like to know, especially when we've heard from a neighbor, or well, Jan actually heard from the neighbor when he was out looking at the site. You know, we'd like to have some validation that the neighbor is aware of this, and you know, if they want to make some comments, they have a chance to make comments to us. So it would be helpful if you would reach out, or the neighbor would, or the owner would reach out and kind of let the neighbor know what's going on, and that if they have any concerns, they can send an email or contact the planning board.
Yeah, okay.
So
Should we just copy the town on anything we send? This way you guys, there's a record of what gets sent.
Well, because I mean, I think if we were to do a public hearing, this would be basically to get that one person's comment. So I'm hoping to
Right.
say, rather than go through the public hearing process, perhaps we could get some kind of, you know, information, and then have this go administratively.
Okay.
I guess I'll ask the other board members what they think. I mean, I think it is certainly improved. I'm not sure we'd get much feedback. Again, I think the public hearing would be sort of to notify them neighbor, and I'm like, that's not necessarily the purpose of a public hearing.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you, Janet. I mean, there's one house to the east that's now quite close.
Yeah.
I don't know what the distance is, but you know, it's probably about 100 feet. I would guess.
Sure. I mean, we could do that. Is there a risk that we do go that route and then the public hearing is still required? I guess my question would be.
Maybe if you could stop screen sharing, we could see each other. I want to see what the other board members think about this. Do you have any views? Yes, Charlene.
Can we make it sent administratively to Jan if he accepts it, subject to the maybe a letter from each of the neighbors?
I've been in that position before.
Yeah.
And I've received letters that, you know, after a project's going administrative, that letters from the neighbors that have, you know, identified concerns and comments, and then I'm, you know, kind of in a position that it has to go back to the board. So I'd prefer that you either have the public hearing or get the letters prior to referring it to my office.
Yeah, I agree with Jan. That puts, you know, that puts Jan in an administrative position in a very tough spot to then be having to vet, you know, what correspondence from neighbors, you know, should be, you know, what weight it should be accorded, and so, you know, if letters that are supportive or at least neutral in the application can be submitted before you make that decision. And it's up to the applicant to determine how to obtain those. We can go that route, or I would say just do a public hearing.
I'm thinking that in the interest of time, if we say go get a letter and then they don't like them, and then we say, so maybe we just schedule a public hearing.
Schedule a public hearing
for December. We've sort of demonstrated we think we can fit that in. I expect the neighbors will be able to comment if they want, and if we don't get much,
And then again, I said it earlier, with the direction to Jan and myself to draft a resolution.
okay.
Well,
Or-
you need a resolution to go administrative?
Or just be prepared to go administrative.
Yeah.
I'd leave it to Jan, I guess, in some extent, what he'd prefer.
I don't have any, it does not matter to me one way or the other.
So why don't we just conduct the public hearing in December?
Yeah.
And then that decision can be made.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the overall site plan of that area, there's really 2 houses that have any impact whatsoever. So I don't think there's much chance that but I think we should hear them.
Okay. So we'll set a public hearing for, and if you haven't been through this process with us, Kirsten will be very helpful at getting you through the public hearing setup. Okay.
Okay, sounds great.
All right. We'll see you next month.
Great. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Take care.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Same to you.
Okay. The next item on our agenda is another wetland permit review, and that is calendar number 48-21 WP Clark Garage, 68 East Ridge Road, Wacabuck, New York. This is the application for a garage. And hi, there's, is Mike on as well?
I am.
There he is. Okay. So we did get now the actual plans that I think you showed us last time, but we hadn't received. And I think we again have, so since you showed them to us last time and now we got to actually look at them, I don't know if we need to see them again or if we can go right to any comments from Jan on this.
Happy to go through the comments if you'd like me to.
Yes, please.
The first comment is regarding notes that remain on the plan relative to the accessory apartment, which I believe has been removed from the application. So removing those notes from the plan would be appropriate. Now that well, let me just back up in that the prior iteration of the plan included a detached 3-bay garage and access off the existing driveway. That plan, after conceptual review by the board, has been modified so that the garage is now attached to the home. The apartment on the second floor has been removed, and they're relocating the driveway to kind of the central portion of the lot, so that the majority of the driveway is outside of the wetland buffer. So the existing driveway is in very close proximity to the wetland. That will be removed, restored to vegetation of some type. We'll need to discuss that restoration with them, and the driveway relocated so that much of the driveway is outside of the buffer. So that relocation of the garage and the relocation of the driveway were significant improvements from the initial iteration of the plan. So I just want to make everybody aware of that. And then obviously the connection to the septic system goes away because the driveway or the apartments being eliminated. So I view those as all very positive things. There is a wetland delineation on the plan. We had asked that the person that delineated the wetlands and the date of that delineation be noted on the plan. They haven't yet developed their wetland mitigation plan, but they'll be responsible for preparing that and preparing a plan that provides a one-to-one wetland mitigation. Although I think that there should be some credit for relocating the driveway outside of the buffer, because I think the garage probably could be accessed via the existing driveway, and they've done that to kind of better the plan and as a response to comments from the board. The wetlands are off-site. They are regulated by the DEC. So the DEC will need to confirm the wetland boundary, and their wetland validation block will need to be included on the plan and signed by the state DEC. The limits of disturbance associated with the project need to appear on the site plan, and the area of disturbance associated, or the area of land disturbance denoted on the plan. This way we can determine whether a stormwater permit is also required. And the project is in the east of Hudson watershed, so any disturbance over 5,000 square feet would require the preparation of a stormwater pollution prevention plan and the filing of a notice of intent with the DEC, along with the town's local stormwater permit. Erosion sediment control plan needs to be provided. The applicant should, as we require in all cases, mitigate stormwater runoff from the roof of the proposed garage. There's some comments about our office witnessing the soil testing for those improvements. That's really the majority of the comments. I think the plan is far improved from the original iteration, and it's just kind of dealing with some of the details at this point.
So previously, the plan was reviewed by the ZBA and got variances. I don't know if we need to send it back to the building inspector, if there's anything that might pertain to a garage that's attached to a house as opposed to separate.
Yeah, the variances that they obtained, the town has a requirement of 600 square foot maximum on a detached accessory structure. So they got that variance, which goes away now because the garage is being attached to the house. The town also has height limitations on detached accessory structures, which are more restrictive than principal dwellings. But now that the garage is attached to the house, the height requirements for the house are going to kind of govern that 35 feet or 2.5 stories. So I suspect that both of those variances are probably no longer applicable. But that's for the building inspector to determine whether you need to make that formal referral, or I could just communicate with the building inspector to see kind of where it's going. You can handle it either way.
Well, the only thing I would say is, well, do we need to hear back from them? And I guess if you handled it, so the fact that you're saying maybe handle it informally, does that mean that you would be ready to take this administratively?
I'd be comfortable taking it administratively just because of where the project's going from where it was, and just knowing we're dealing with the details associated with the stormwater. Again, I think that a lot of the mitigation is really, a lot of the mitigation I think is come about in revisions to the project design and relocating that driveway. So I'm pretty comfortable with where it stands now.
What do other members of the board think?
I'd be in favor of administrative review.
I think you have to make a motion if you.
I'd make a motion that we
I think we're going to run the table with administrative tonight.
I'm sorry, Greg?
I said, I think we're going to run the table with administrative.
Okay. So.
Well, we have a second.
Which means I'll second it, yes.
Okay. You know, this is pretty hard to run this when I have to run the table. All right. So
it's a sports metaphor. I'm sorry. It's okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
It's a pool metaphor. It's a billiards metaphor.
I know.
We're going to knock all the rest of the balls into the holes.
Got it. So, any further discussion on the motion? Made by Jerome, seconded by Gregory. Okay, so I'm going to poll the board. Charlene. Yeah, okay, so you're muted, but I hear aye, right? Thank you. Jerome,
Aye.
Greg,
Yes.
and I also say approve this going administratively. So thank you. And thank you, Jan, for taking it on.
Yes, thank you.
And yes, so I think we're done here.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you. Happy
Happy
holidays.
Thanksgiving.
Yes, yes, happy
Thank you.
Thanksgiving. The next item on the agenda, also wetland permit review, is calendar number 53-21 WP, the Nita residence, 10 Lambert Ridge, Cross River, New York. They have asked to be adjourned till December. So, so we're going to keep moving to calendar number 70-21 WP, the Gardner residence. This is at 23 Wackabuck Road, Goldens Bridge, New York. This is an application for an addition, a pool and patio. And I see Bob Eberts, I guess.
Yes, how are you tonight? Again?
And go ahead.
I can introduce the project to you if you'd like.
Sure.
Okay, I'll share the screen if it's all right with you and pull up a site plan.
Great.
The property is in an R2 acre zone, and it's a 6 acre triangular shaped property on Route 138, not too far from Billingsley Trail, if you know where that comes in.
Okay, if you are intending to show it, I don't think it's showing up.
You're not seeing it, huh?
That's
okay. Let's try that again. Screen. Still not?
No.
No.
I wonder what's going on here.
Well, here, I can show it here.
I'm hitting share, but it's
Here it is.
well, thank you very much. I appreciate it, Jerome.
Yeah.
So this is a 6 acre parcel, triangular shaped. It's got a stream running from one end of the property to the other in the back of the property. The existing house is a 2-story frame house sitting fairly close to Route 138. The driveway comes in from the extreme right side and loops in to the side of the house. There's a septic system on the right side of that driveway over there. And what we're proposing to do is add a 10-foot addition on the back of the house with this extra little 5 feet bump out, and then put remove the existing deck, which is fairly large, sticking out the back toward the wetland. Instead, we're going to build that more on the side of the new deck on the side of the house, and then add a pool with a pool surround on the left side of the house. In the area that we're talking about doing the pool and the pool surround, the grade is very flat in that area, and there's only 2 trees that have to be removed. So it's a pretty welcoming site for that pool. Almost the entire site is within the 150-foot wetland buffer, town wetland buffer, and most of it is also within the 100-foot New York State DEC buffer as well. So we really can't put the pool or the addition somewhere that's beyond the wetland boundaries. If we moved closer to Wackabuck Road with all this, then we'd be within the setback, the front yard setback. So we really don't have much choices to add to the back of the house and then put the pool on the left-hand side. The drainage we're anticipating handling with 2 rain gardens, one on the left, one on the right. One on the right would handle primarily the building runoff, and the one on the left would handle the pool surround runoff. Now, the way they're shown right now, they're a little too close to the septic and to the existing well. So we're going to push those a little bit further to the right and again, further to the left. In your next submission, you're going to see that. But it won't affect any trees or anything else other than just moving those a little bit wider away from the rest of the construction. I think that will do it for initial presentation. Are you comfortable with that?
Yes, thank you. I did notice when I looked at the parcel maps on Westchester County, they mentioned a cemetery on, it just sort of says cemetery. I think what would be to the left of what we're seeing here, but perhaps you could comment, or is there, do you know of anything that would be out there, that why it says cemetery on the parcel map from Westchester County?
There is a cemetery that's further along, further west on Route 138, but on this side of the road, but it's not on this parcel that I'm aware of.
Beth Evans, I walked the parcel and did not see anything that looked like an old cemetery.
Okay, I mean, again, this is Westchester County's map, so it might be old a little bit. I'm sorry, did you mention what kind of pool is this? Is this chlorine, salt?
They're thinking, they haven't decided firmly yet, but they're thinking of a saltwater pool.
Okay, I'm generally more concerned about drawdown when there's salt. You know, you can get rid of chlorine, but salt sticks around. Just so that would make us be a lot more alert to any, drawdown arrangements and proposals there. Another thing I noticed just as I looked at this, that there is an underground storage tank, not really where you're working, but towards the, I guess towards the road from the house. It's right at that corner there, and was wondering, since there is going to be quite a bit of disturbance, whether that was any consideration had been given to maybe taking the tank out and putting it in a different spot. Yeah, the cursor's right on it now.
Yeah.
We had not discussed removing that tank.
Okay.
Now, there's not going to be, the construction will all go around the back of the property. In other words, we're going to remove that deck first, and then build the pool after we remove the deck. So everything's going to be going around the back where the addition will be. The grade really doesn't allow you to come around the front. So there's not going to be any construction work that comes in that area.
Okay.
Closest will be the deck piers, of course.
The closest, the deck piers. I see.
Yeah.
Okay. I noticed that and didn't know whether that was, at all a consideration while so much other activity was going on. Okay. I think we do have a letter again from Jan on this. So maybe Jan, you could go through that.
Yeah, I won't go through, we had a number of comments. I won't go through all of them. I think the plan that was submitted is more conceptual in nature. We're still looking for the stormwater to be designed, a wetland mitigation plan to be prepared. I assume that's why Beth and Alan are on tonight. So I know that's forthcoming. We do have a DEC wetland involved here, so they'll have to do their due diligence with the DEC. Those things will, we'll come and we'll review them. I didn't know if there was any potential for reducing the amount of cover associated with the terrace by potentially pivoting the pool 90 degrees and maybe shortening up the terrace a bit. Just one idea, but as more information is submitted, we'll take a look at it. I know Bob had mentioned to me on the phone that there was a good opportunity to remove invasives on the property, Japanese barberry he mentioned, so it's a good form of mitigation. So we'll see where it goes. I'm familiar with the property, just passing by it so often, but the wetland boundary looked good. We'll wait to see the details with the stormwater and the wetland mitigation.
Okay. We also got a memo, as I recall, from the CAC. John, is there anything that you feel should be added to our discussion so far?
Yeah, I guess the only other thing is to see identification of any trees that are removed. That might have an influence on the mitigation plan, but the rest of our comments are pretty much in line with what Jan said.
John, I had a little problem hearing you at the end there. Could you repeat it with a little louder?
Yeah, I think most of our comments are in line with what Jan said. We'd like to see the trees identified that are removed, and that would have some impact on the mitigation plan.
Thank
The
you.
2 trees are indicated on the drawings to be removed.
So it's mostly lawn area that you'd be impacting with this?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so any comments from anyone else? Jerome, you're muted.
Bob, it seems like, there's already a significant amount of incursion into the wetland buffer. And have there been any other studies, as has been inferred, to minimize the further incursion into the wetland boundary? There's a lot of outdoor living here. There's a raised deck with, I'm assuming that's outdoor space where you're showing a canopy.
Yes.
And there's looks like a dining table with 6 chairs and a living room outdoors. And then you go down these steps to another incredibly large deck around the pool. Sort of treating this as though it were a property without any wetlands constraints. And in fact, there are wetland constraints. And I think we're kind of looking the other way when we see this much expansion into the wetlands and not commenting on how the expansion in that direction seems to me to be inordinately large for a recreational use. In other words, not for any habitation or something that would make the house. Not that I'm against recreation or enjoyment, but perhaps there's a discussion we need to have or to look at alternatives. I've said enough. I think you get my drift.
I do. We're actually reducing the amount of deck that they have currently by several hundred square feet. And we will commit to reducing the pool surround from what's shown now, probably another 500 square feet.
So right now, the pool surround is about 1,500, and you'll say you're going to take that down closer to 1,000?
Yes. But I'll review with the owners, see if we can reduce the deck area a bit.
Okay. So I think, yes, we're between Jan's memo and the the comments from the board, I think you have the sense that we feel this is trying to put a lot on this, on a constrained piece of property, constrained by the stream. I mean, which I'm sure you enjoy, the stream and the wetlands, but okay, so resubmittal, I think it's by November 30th for next month, if possible.
Yes.
Just checking. Yeah. Okay, so maybe we'll see you in December with a updated plan.
Absolutely. Thank
Great.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And now I lost, okay. With that, the next item on the agenda is calendar number 72-21 WP, calendar number 21-21 SW. This is the Dayton Pool and Patio at 62 Mead Street, Wacabuck, New York. This is an application for a courtyard, including a new pool, fire pit, pavers, and a new garage and grotto. So, yes, hi, John Watson is on for this.
Yes, hi,
And-
John.
Hi.
Yep. We also have our architect, Rick O'Leary, if you could unmute him or allow him to speak. Can I share my screen and walk you through the site plan?
Yes, we've had people have trouble doing it, but we hope you can.
Yeah, I'll try. Can you see that?
Yes.
Yes. Awesome. Right, so this is a property, 62 Mead Street. It is just over 6 acres. It's a very odd shape. Mead Street is on the eastern part of the property on the right-hand side of this picture. There is a existing guest house and garage just off to the right, then a long driveway that sweeps to the back and goes up to an existing residence. There is an existing wetland on the adjoining property to the east, and we're here for a wetland permit because we are within that buffer. I'd like to go to a blow up of that area. So this is the existing conditions plan of the house. So currently we have a small garage here, a small garage here, and a circular driveway. The main house sits here. And then this is a enclosed courtyard with walls around the outside and an existing pool. And this is a stone wall, which is the property line. The blue is the wetland. The wetland's on the adjoining neighbor's property. And the green is the 100-foot buffer off of that wetland. So in the proposed condition, we're looking to change a few things. The house, this garage stay the same. The driveway is getting a minor alignment to work better for getting into the garages and a little motor court here. We're also taking down the small garage here and making a little bigger garage. And that enclosed courtyard, which was here, is getting the southern wall of the courtyard is being removed and pushed out several feet just to allow for a bigger pool. This is where the pool has currently been, and we just want to make that pool bigger. So there's not a lot of new development. It's basically the realignment of the driveway a little bit. I'd like to actually zoom out and show you both pictures at once. I think that shows a good picture.
Okay, so it looks like there's some things going on at the north end of the house as well. I'm not quite sure what, I know there's a little infill.
Correct. Yep, there's a little infill and there's going to be some AC units. Rick, you want to address those?
Yes, the gray area is a mudroom. To the north of the existing attached garage is an area reserved for compressors. And there's a path leading from the back part of the driveway to the garage. There'll be a doorway into that attached garage. And can you just slide over that way?
I'm trying, Rick. This is, it's not cooperating.
Use the slider at the bottom, maybe?
Aha, thank you.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not.
Yep.
Yeah, there you go.
So there's a mudroom addition. This is the little infill off the existing house.
Right.
And then there's going to be an HVAC equipment pad, concrete pad here, and a little walkway from the new parking back into the existing garage.
Now, what's the halftone gray area to the right of that, John? It sits
So
over
that-
the septic. Sits over the septic tank.
Right.
That rectangle is a on the ground hot tub. That's the way this house is configured. The master suite is on the first floor on the back of the house there where it says open porch. And so they were hoping to have a small area where you could walk out on grade and have hot tub. So that's where the dash line that indicates area proposed limit of disturbance. That's
This line here, Rick, is this like a patio, Rick?
It's just probably just grass and just, it's not designed yet, but it's an area that's reserved for disturbance. It's probably grass and, some stepping stones, things like that.
Okay, but it is over a septic tank and need to maintain access to that tank.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, that was one of my concerns looking at that was, can you still get to all those things? But if it's a walkway, so there's a septic pump and holding tank. So does this not have fields?
It has fields. The fields are further to the north.
Okay.
Because of the grade is so flat here, they have to pump to the septic system because it's a bigger septic system that requires dosing. So Health Department, Westchester County requires a septic tank and then a separate pump pit and then an overflow tank. So if the power ever goes out and the pump pit fills up, it will go to this third overflow tank. So this is an empty tank that just sits there. But yes, we do need to maintain access to all of these. And it's not uncommon for people to put some type of walkway or a patio over their septic tanks, and they just either leave some type of clean out to grade, or they just know they have to, remove some of their walkway to pump the tanks.
Right.
Thank you. That's very helpful. I was puzzled by what was going on there.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and that other box by the green line is a sandbox for their son.
Okay.
Okay. And then those three little things right by by the middle septic tank?
Those are conceptually stepping stones to go from the path that leads to the side entrance to the garage to the little private area where the hot tub may be.
Got it. Okay. I was trying to make something much bigger than stepping stones out of it. Thank you. Okay.
Okay, so if we go to, if we can go, we'll just go to our actual site plan. So this is the detail of what we want to do. This reads a little better because we're over, we crossed over the 5,000 square foot disturbance threshold. We do have to do stormwater treatment. We did prepare a SWIP. We're doing stormwater infiltration over in this area here. We're grabbing the new driveway, bringing it in the redevelopment of the patio, redevelopment of the driveway and patio, bring it back to an infiltration system with an overflow out to discharge down by the wetland.
Okay. So this is about to prove that I know nothing at all about stormwater, but I look at this and I see all those planting beds and I see like a stormwater catch basin in the middle of the patio. And it sort of seems to me like you're going to take all the rainwater off and put it in the infiltrator, and then you're probably going to water the plants. And I was wondering if there's any way to have, you know, some of the stormwater sheet off or something into the gardens. This is purely conceptual, and you can tell me it's nuts. And to actually, you know, almost use like parking lots that now use tree islands and islands for stormwater. I kind of looked at that and said, maybe there's a way to do this, something like that here to kind of, you know, use the stormwater in a better way. And I have no idea if that would work.
That's not crazy at all. That's actually a pretty progressive idea.
Right.
So what we could do is right now what we've done is we've made low points where the catch basins are and drained everything. So the difficult part is we have that whole patio area is enclosed by like a 6-foot stone wall around the whole way. So everything the water doesn't leave here. We have to get it out by pipes. What we've done is we've created low points in the patio, so everything pitches these low points. What we could do is possibly pitch them to the planted areas. We would still need we'd still need overflows and provisions for that. So that's interesting. It would really be very similar to a rain garden.
Right, with some subsurface drainage that allows any, you know, so you're not soaking them wet, but you get them wet when they're needed. I just wanted to know if you'd considered it, because it seems possible to me, but I don't know.
We didn't consider it, but that's interesting, and we can definitely. The only reason I think we would not do it is if we can't get the elevations to work with like the overflow pipes, and you might be flooding. I'm trying to think it through, and it's.
John, I think the key would be to tie it into an irrigation system with some valve controls, so
actually, I don't even know if they have an irrigation system.
No,
here.
but you'd create one within the plant beds, have a storage tank, and then when hydration is required, it would just pump it from the storage tank instead of sending it down to the infiltrators.
Yeah, I mean that might be more complex, and I just wanted to get the idea.
Not complex.
The other question is this a saltwater pool or chlorine? Do you know?
Rick?
I'm not sure. I know his pool at his other house was chlorine, but I don't think we got a final determination on that. I know what is the third type? There's another type that's like ionization or something like that. What is that?
There, where they, I think that is sort of functionally equivalent to chlorine or bromine or something. I mean, it's a less chemical, but it's essentially the question is it salt or other? Because any kind of drawdown with salt.
I think it was going to be other, because his prior pool was chlorine, and I think there was discussion of this other less chlorine-like or salt-like filtration system. I can't remember. We're working on another project that has it, but I can't remember what it's called right now.
Okay.
The pool guy knows.
Okay. We did have a memo from Jan on this as well. Jan, did you want to go through the highlights of that?
Yeah, I won't go through all the comments. The stormwater look good. We reviewed the SWIP. We don't really have any technical comments on it. If it changes to incorporate some or to address comments of the board regards to irrigation, then we'll look at that. We do need to confirm or witness the soil testing with the infiltration system, and we need to see a wetland mitigation plan. Though, we have some other comments, but I won't bore you with them. What are you doing with the pool fence? Is the wall high enough to act as the pool fence? Is that the idea?
Yeah, the wall's like 6 foot high.
Okay, gotcha.
Jan, I
So-
did have a question on the wetland mitigation plan.
Yep.
Because it's a redevelopment project and we're really not doing a lot of new, we're not forging into new areas. We're just redeveloping areas we have. Do we still have to do a full 1-to-1 mitigation?
Well, I mean, you're redeveloping portions of the site that are already developed. So I don't think so. The code really doesn't speak to that, but typically we're reasonable, but we need to have some. We need some form of mitigation for the wetland buffer disturbance.
Yeah, we do have some thoughts on that, so we'll prepare something and see what you think.
Yeah, maybe. Well, I mean, the footprint of the patio and the pool is basically the same. So, maybe it's the disturbance associated with the stormwater, or we'll figure something out. But I don't think that you should have to provide mitigation for redisturbing already disturbed lawn area.
Well, Janet, may I speak?
Go ahead, John.
Sorry to be so loquacious tonight, and the hour's getting late. But we have an existing walled garden that's being expanded. And I'm wondering if the only reason for the expansion is to get a larger pool. Couldn't the garage move to the west, to the west, and maybe compress that one planter bed? There's a lot of planting in there, and not expand that area. That way we could truly say that we're not expanding further into the wetland buffer, and we're not disturbing additional areas. The garage would be out of the buffer altogether, and the area would stay the same. Why is the requirement to expand that so critical?
Well, from a site perspective, if you push the garage to the west, we're going to be into those utilities. We got electric meter and the cable TV, and I don't think we have enough room to push that over to get it out of that walled-in courtyard and still be able to get into the garage there. It's already pretty tight getting into there. And then Rick, what are your thoughts on Jerome's comment?
Yes, on the lower left corner of that garage, there's a dash line, which is the zoning setback. So we're proposing to enlarge it, but not go beyond the setback so that we're not into a territory of asking for a variance. So that was the location of that edge, is based on the side yard setback. And then the enlargement of the walled courtyard, it was kind of irregular that this high wall T-bones into the middle of the building, and the other edges of the wall come to the edges of buildings. So we thought it just seemed more logical to come to the edge in a similar way that it does in other places. Well, there's one place where it T-bones into the garage, but the other edges come up adjacent to the house. It just seemed to be a smoother connection.
Jerome, this is that side yard setback line right here.
Yeah.
So
yes.
That's from the previous survey. So we can't.
What's the dimension of that garage? That's much deeper, it seems, than what you'd need for any car today. What's that dimension, Rick?
The width is the existing width, which is approximately 24. It's basically 24 by 24. And so I don't know, John, can you use your cursor and just show, that portion of it is an existing garage. And so the concept is to make that like a seating area where you can have covered, we're calling it a grotto. It's kind of a fancy name for just a covered seating area in this case. And then we're enlarging the west edge, the left edge, as far as we can, that it still fits a car and a seating area. So that's the layout for that.
I get it.
It's basically like 24 for the garage. And then there's 3 feet for a stair to go up into the loft area. And then there's maybe 20 feet for the seating, the covered seating.
But, and Jerome, I think your goal was to get it out so it was outside of the buffer, but I think that dash line is the 100-foot buffer, not the 150. So moving it further really wouldn't make the objective of getting it
No,
out, if I
No, that was,
understood it.
no, the overall goal I had was not to expand to the south, not to expand the walled garden, to leave it.
Yeah.
And then by shortening up on the garage, you could move the pool over to where that plant bed is.
Hmm.
The plant bed on the west side. So
John, I think that's a 150-foot line, by the way.
Yeah,
Oh,
Janet,
yeah.
that is the 150 foot off the wetland.
Okay, great. Thank you.
okay.
Yep.
Yeah, that makes sense. So that
But
was my
there's
goal.
existing patio there anyway, so it's already, part of that interior courtyard, this patio.
No, I understand.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we keep talking about no disturbance, but we are
Yeah.
actually disturbing that southeast section. So that was all. That was my only thought. Was
I believe I said no significant disturbance. So it's, we're doing little things around the edges, but in general, we're redoing the parking where the parking is. We're doing the garage where the garage is. We're redoing the walled courtyard where that is, with the little addition off the south end. Yeah.
okay. Well, I don't hear any other planning board members commenting, so I guess you're right.
So one of the things that I think we could do is refer this to the building inspector. And I can only see Jerome. So maybe if you stop sharing, I think.
Sure. Yep.
Yes.
Hey, John, is it possible, we do need to send it over to the building inspector, but there's some zoning information that has to be added to the plan.
Yep. We can add that. Yep.
Is it possible? I'm guessing you don't have this in this survey in AutoCAD?
We just have a PDF, which is why this looks like it does. We're just wrapping up a field survey. We're doing a on the ground real boundary topo survey. So we're going to have a real plan for hopefully the next mission.
Excellent. Could you add the zoning information and maybe the setback lines?
Yep, of course.
For the building inspector's review?
Yep.
So should we defer referring it until with the next submission, or
maybe that just something that when it becomes available, we'll get the plans over to the building inspector.
Yep.
Okay, so we agree. So I'm looking for thumbs up. We agree to refer it.
Yes.
Okay, good. Anything further on this?
When you said refer it, was that a referral to the building inspector or an administrative referral?
Building inspector. Not so fast.
Oh, come on.
Nice one, John.
Well, it's late. I figured I could slide that in.
Yeah, we're awake. So.
Okay, Judd, nice to see you're here.
Yeah, good to see you, John.
Will the real John Watson step up, please?
Yes.
So it's but I I think I thank you for explaining some of the mysteries, and I think I feel a lot more comfortable with what the application is about now than when we started this. So thank you.
Yeah. One other thing, Jan, it did say that a wetland permit is required. Is that true?
That is why you're here.
I'm sorry. It's late. My bad. A public hearing for the wetland permit.
Oh, yeah.
That is true if the board decides to take the application to resolution. If it ends up being referred at some point administrative, then the public hearing doesn't happen. But
okay, yeah, because I noticed some of the previous wetland permits didn't have public hearings when administrative, but now I understand. Thank you.
So and as you might have heard previously, if we hear from the neighbors that they're in support of this, or at least have no objection, it certainly leans it leans us towards another reason to say it's okay to go administrative, I guess I would say. So
okay.
That's a thing that would really help on that.
Okay.
because you do have neighbors sort of in that, inside your L
Yep.
there.
Yeah. Both sides, yes.
Okay,
Okay, so the next meeting is December 21st, I think.
it is, and the submission date is November 30th.
Okay,
John, as soon as you get a plan, we can get it over to the building inspector. You don't have to wait until the submission deadline.
okay. All right,
Great, thank you.
thank you. Have a great night.
And you too, and happy Thanksgiving.
You
Yes.
too. Bye.
Okay.
Take care.
Okay, next thing is just our discussion of meeting dates. So we have choices of 2 dates in January and choices of 2 dates in February. I think our first comment on January was that Jerome won't be able to make it if we choose January 11th, but we would be able to Zoom. If we go to January 18th, we have Jerome, but we're in person. So we need to make that. I'm a little with only 4 members. I hope we will get a new member by then, but I don't know. It makes me a little then it was really important for the other 3 of us to show up on January 11th. So,
Janet, if the 11th is preferred, I can skip the other. The other commitment is not as critical as the planning board and having a quorum. So I could go for the 11th if that's what the choice is.
I think people would prefer to Zoom as long as we can. I mean, I know we're going to have to
Yep.
go there, but there's a chance that by February there would be a.
Yeah. Well, I'm good with that. I'm good.
Okay. All right.
Thanks,
So,
Ron.
yes, thank you. So it's January 11th. And then the February meeting, I think is really, I think we heard Judd, last time Judd said, you said that you were flexible, either week was okay. So it's all what the
Yeah,
vacations.
I've passed the torch to Jan.
Okay,
This is now Jan's issue to deal with.
yeah.
So, I'm an empty nester, so.
So we all
I-
learn
yeah.
when your house is empty.
Right. So I would defer to Jan in terms of the schedule and his availability.
So, Jan,
Yeah, I failed my homework assignment, and I just ran upstairs to see my wife was still awake to figure out which week we're going to Disney.
You're going to Disney? Yeah.
If they're live, I can't make either one. I'm in San Francisco starting the 4th of February.
What? It's either the 15th or the 22nd.
yeah,
Yeah, I'm away until the 11th of March from the 4th of February.
all these people.
So
Okay,
I'm out of pocket.
which do you prefer, Jan?
I'll be right back. Hang on one second.
Well, it's a very long gap between the 11th and the 22nd. Does that have any bearing on anything?
I know it's a long gap, but
I'm
I think
just asking. I mean, if it doesn't
Yeah.
matter, it doesn't matter, but I'm just wondering.
How about meeting on the 1st?
of what, of February?
Yeah. Is that too close?
Well, when people have things that tend to go on a cadence, so they are doing something every second or every third or every fourth, it gets harder when we start moving around.
Oh, I know.
I would schedule it for whichever you prefer, and if I can't make it, I'll get coverage.
Will you please zoom in with Mickey ears on?
Melissa's out.
We're not doing Zoom though. That'll be post Zoom, right?
Oh, right.
Right,
Unless you do a hybrid.
which I understand is very difficult to set up and manage. So why don't, if if there's no difference, why don't we try February 15th? Just because, as Greg pointed out, that isn't quite as long a period. It's still a little bit longer, you know, it's one extra week, but usually we do it slightly differently. And we'll hope that the state will figure out how to get us back onto Zoom by then, but that might not happen.
I suspect
okay?
that's the week that will work out. I'm sure that the schools are closed the week of President's Day, which is the following week.
Yeah, I think that's, yeah, that made it all weird this month. Okay, so thank you. So we'll plan on January 11th, virtual, and February 15th, in person, unless we hear otherwise between now and then. Okay. I just wanted to make one comment about the RFPs that were out for the comprehensive plan, and just let you know that we did receive, the town received 5 responses. So that is moving forward. Okay, so with that, we have the minutes of October 21st. I'd look for a motion to approve them.
So moved.
Charlene? Anybody want a second? Okay, Greg, thank you. Any discussion about the minutes? Okay, I'll pull the board. Charlene,
Aye.
Jerome,
Aye.
Greg,
Aye.
and I also vote to approve the minutes. So now, our next meeting date is December 21st, 2021. And so now I'd look for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to approve the minutes as submitted.
We just did that.
Yeah.
We did?
Yep.
Well, I think I know what Jerome was saying. I don't think but
We
I
didn't
think we effectively did that. Yes, we didn't do it in the same manner we usually do, but I think we got it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I beg your pardon.
No, I think I was thinking that too, but it's late.
Okay, yeah, it's late.
Motion to adjourn?
No.
All right, that's from Jerome, seconded by Greg. I read somewhere we don't really have to poll the board on this, but I'll do it anyway. Oh, we don't need to? You're correct? No, we do. All right, Charlene.
We don't need to.
We don't need to. All right. It's we're adjourning at 10:32.
You can just say all in favor.
All in favor?
Do it by acclamation.
Aye.
Yes, aye.
All right, that's it. And so have a happy Thanksgiving and
Like-